We can no longer afford business as usual politics. We can no longer afford to rely on what's been done in the past. We must look to the future and what needs to be done. Difficult choices, difficult decisions, politically unpopular, but guess what? I have the leadership, the rock-solid integrity, the strength of character. I have been back in Washington in the Pentagon, and I have seen the compromises that occurred on the civilian side that oversees the military, and I have seen it on the military side in what they've had to give up to their civilian masters, sometimes at the expense of our national security. We cannot afford to do that anymore. I will tell you right now, I grew up in Nevada. I love this state. I graduated from Carson High School. My mother, high school English teacher, Carson High School, retired and lives there now. My dad worked in the corrections business here in the state for years. He's buried there. This has been my home, and I kept it that way throughout my career in the Navy. When I was on leave, I came home. When I transferred to duty stations, I came home. I went off and served those 26 years in the Navy. I saw the world. I saw everything from abject poverty in Peru to overwhelming wealth in Monaco. But nothing stands out like the freedom that each of us enjoy today, that we are exercising here with what you are doing by taking time from your personal lives to make this a better state and a better nation. I will tell you right now, when I finished serving, it was defined by one incident, USS Cole. You're familiar with it. That incident in and of itself defined what service could mean to a nation. In less than 3 milliseconds on October 12, 2000, in a thunderous explosion, Al-Qaeda attacked my ship. No one had anticipated it. No one had planned for it. The intelligence community was caught short. Nobody in the Navy or the nation expected a waterborne IED. And in that singular moment, my crew rose to the challenge. They saved that ship, and they did what was necessary to make sure that we could bring that ship back to the United States, rebuild it, and send it back out to defend freedom. I didn't know what I was going to face in those few critical seconds. What did I do? I took a deep breath, grabbed a 9mm, and went outside, not knowing if I was going to give my life, but I knew 3 things. I was going to defend my crew, my ship, and my nation. When you're looking for someone to go to Washington that represents the strength of character that you need, I hope that I'm that choice. The reality of it is, when I finished serving, I went to work for a great organization called Military Families United. Following the attack on USS Cole, there was a thorough investigation. That investigation showed that ultimately there had been a failure through the entire chain of command that did not anticipate what had happened. I then went out and did something more challenging than I've ever done in my life. I visited with the families of those 17 sailors. If you think you could ask me a tougher question than they did over 3.5 weeks on the road, I'd invite you to bring it on. There is nothing that I won't answer with respect to that incident, the aftermath, my promotion, or any issues regarding the state and the future here in Nevada. I will tell you right now, when that was all done, having worked for Military Families United, I found myself sitting in the White House with a president who had just rode into town, and what was his first order of business? It was to dismantle a facility that safeguarded our national interest, and specifically with intelligence, by closing Guantanamo Bay. I listened as he sat around and explained to the families of USS Cole and 9/11 why taking that facility and dismantling it would be in our national security interest. He promised those families, I will keep an open door. He hasn't. He said he would keep them involved in the process. He didn't. He said he would meet with them again. He has yet to do it. This president and his administration do not understand what it takes to keep a nation secure. I have witnessed it firsthand, and then went out toe-to-toe, took him on, while the Republicans were sitting down and saying, oh my goodness, we can't challenge him, he's riding a wave coming off the '08 elections, and I proved one person can make a difference. His Attorney General 4 months later would then try to explain why closing Guantanamo Bay and bringing terrorists to the United States, putting them in our federal court system, reading them their Miranda rights like common criminals, like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and al-Nashiri who bombed the Cole, was again going to be in our national interest. And I challenged them again. Both times, I took tremendous pressure to back off, not challenge the president, do what was necessary. That is what wasn't right for our nation. I knew what I needed to do, and I stood fast and I stood firm. I know what it's like to be there in Washington. The pressures are immense. You need to ask yourself, the candidates, the questions. Will they do what's right for Nevada and my families? Will they do what's right for the security of my nation? Will they be able to withstand the pressure from the special interests, the politically influential lobbies, groups, and others who push them in certain directions up on K Street? Because trust me, they influence politicians with something very powerful, and that's called money. They will use it, they will twist it, and they will push you. I don't care about that. I care about what the citizens of Nevada want, and that's what I will represent. I will tell you right now, I've experienced the horrors of a terrorist attack firsthand. All of us remember 9/11. All of us also remember the morning of September 12th. We did not care about our job, our bills to be paid, how well our car was running. What did each and every one of you really think about that morning? You thought about, is my family safe? Are my children safe? What is going to happen to my nation? I never want that pit in my stomach again. And for each and every one of you, right now, be careful. Ayman al-Zawahiri was just made the head of Al-Qaeda. He is more operationally astute, he is more dangerous, and he is more unpredictable. Trust me, they are targeting us, they will be back, they are relentless, they want to destroy our way of life, and they want to kill you. As you go forward in this election, you need to ask yourself also one final question. Will the individual that I'm sending back to Washington in all of that political heat stand their ground to do whatever is necessary to keep my family and this nation secure? Because the bottom line is going to be, I have stood in the heat. I have gone against the president twice, and I will tell you right now, I will go against him again. I will go against his administration where I have to. I will make sure that we get the government starting to back out of our lives, that we start reducing the taxes, that we turn government functions at the federal level back to the state level where they belong. And I will also do one other thing. I will not sign a non-aggression pact with Harry Reid. I will take him on whenever, wherever, doing whatever it takes. Harry Reid has gotten away for too long with nobody wanting to lay a glove on him. There's a certain degree of national, having been in the media out there, that I will bring to the table that no one else can, where I will take him on. And guess what? It will represent our future. I have touched that third rail, and I know darn good and well what I was doing. Yucca Mountain needs to be opened. The reprocessing facility needs to be built. Let me tell you, take one look at the Palo Verde reactor down in Phoenix, 3.3 gigawatts, giving power to 4 million homes. If you build 2 of those, we can power Nevada with the cheap energy that our businesses need, and we can start powering the Southwest. We have an economic future that Harry Reid has politically thwarted, and it is time to call him out with facts and stop him from doing that. I will go back to Washington and do just that. So again, as you ask those critical questions of who's going to lead, I know many of you have made up your mind. I would ask for your support and your vote, because the future of our nation is at stake. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have 5-minute time for you to ask him questions. If you would come up to the mic and give your name and county again for the court reporter, and then we'll start with the 5 minutes when the first one comes up. Anyone have a question for the commander? Well, that was easy. Oh, here comes one. Robert.
Good evening, or actually good afternoon. Oh, excuse me, I'm fighting a
It's
terrible...
been a long day already, but not that long.
No, I'm fighting a terrible cold, so I'm a little delirious at times. Robert Rupert, Clark County. Commander, God bless you.
Thank you.
There is a concern I have that deals with the Middle East. And it's not talked about much in the news, but it is news. Recently, Turkey has decided to send up, and will be doing so next month, a spy satellite that will be looking down on Israel. I know there are conventions and agreements between nations that deal with resolutions from projections from space. Do you believe that this is going to be an issue that will be addressed by the UN or probably by the United States to protect Israel and all of its secret facilities that will now be in jeopardy? I'm just curious, thank you.
The United States and other countries have used overhead imagery for years to supplement their intelligence services by putting a Turkish satellite looking down. Countries at this point, after about 30 years of doing it, know how to protect themselves and know what's necessary. I believe they will take the necessary safeguards. Israel is an ally of ours. I will stand firmly behind them, and we can help them in whatever way is necessary.
Yes, Carol Howell, Crescent City. Commander, there's a large number of people in this room that are concerned that if the Brussels results judgment is overturned, we go back to a free-for-all. Then we go into an election with 3 strong candidates, split the vote, and the Democrats, the American independent Americans, walk away with the CD2 seat that has been Republican. My question to you, and I will ask it of each one of the candidates, if we go back to a special election, will you support whoever wins this election today, back out of the special election, and then pick up your race after it's over?
I have said from the beginning, the process, unfortunately, that you are having to labor under is fundamentally flawed. It does not reflect the democracy that we have. The state should have had a primary and a general election. I have stood on principle from the beginning, and I will give the answer that people probably do not want to hear. I will run regardless of the outcome today.
As a family doctor, Dr. Titus here, Lyon County representative, I'm going to wipe off the same because the previous guy had a cold. I have no questions.
That's our doctor.
Well done, and guess what? She accomplished that without Obamacare.
Steve Donahue, Washoe County. You mentioned a lot of things about nuclear power plants and defense and things like that. Those all cost a lot of money. The government, you pointed out, is already over their debt limit of $14.3 trillion, and there's probably 60 to 130 trillion of unfunded obligations. What is your opinion on the Federal Reserve continuing to print money to pay these obligations and putting our grandchildren and our children, depending on your age, in debt for the rest of their lives? How are we going to defend this country if we don't first go back to sound money?
I will tell you right now, first thing, while people will stand up here and say, eliminate the Federal Reserve, the reality of it is that is a dream that we can work toward. Bottom line, first up front, the Federal Reserve must be audited. If you follow the money, then you will know where it's being spent, on why, and for what reasons, and that includes why it's being printed and who it's going to.
Commander, I suggest that will happen when you or I or one of these folks go to the supermarket and they won't take US dollars anymore.
Let's hope we don't get there, because if you get people back there that can hold them accountable and start doing what's necessary, and it's not by myself, it's building the coalition to make it happen. Yes, ma'am.
Kathleen Slide here, Lyon County. Commander, I'd like to ask you, what bill would you introduce when you get there?
The first bill that I would introduce is going to be one that I think each and every one of us need, and that is to start reining in the EPA, because they have the most direct impact on business. And if you stop over-regulating the oversight of business, instead of taking 5 to 10 years to get a business going, we get it down to 1 to 2 years at most. That will allow people in major industries, whether